There was a moment in between where you were steady. You said, you know what? There's a third outcome, maybe a fourth outcome, maybe a fifth outcome. And when we do this, what happens? And again, we learn over and over and over again that we allow God to come in and participate and co-create in our lives. And it's through other people that this takes place. It is just not some magical moment where all of a sudden you're changed and everything is different and kumbaya. No, there are people that are doing this dance with you, with us, and we're all at different points of the dance. Now, people can come in and participate. Hey, I've got a friend who's away in Spain. They have a car. It needs to be driven. Wonderful. That's great. Somewhere down the line, I can do something for somebody else. Now, I'm playing my role in that moment. And now I'm not like, for instance, I had a kind of a hit to reach out to a client, a friend, who'd been going through something very heavy over the past year. And I don't want to get into their situation, but I just thought about them. Like, I haven't heard from them for a while. I need to reach out to them. So I sent out a brief little text on Skype. I got some information back, and I thought, I got to go a little bit deeper. So last night, for people that are part of my newsletter, if you subscribe to my newsletter, I give you a free 12-month transit report. It's not bad. That's 60 pages. 60 pages of events in the year to come. You get that for free by subscribing to my newsletter. And I might even offer that on my website. So I was on the internet last night sending out these transit reports to my subscribers. And I thought to myself, this person, they should get one. I need to send them one. I'm going to send them one. I'm going to say, hey, look, you're on my mind, blah, 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 bang. I did it. Immediately I got back, a heartfelt thank you. And, then I got back, that I'd been on this person's mind, and that even that day they'd been hearing my voice in their head. So we are in a really sophisticated cosmic dance on this planet. And by not buying into the reactive moment, we allow the grace of the divine intelligence to come in and really dance with us. And then after a while, we begin to realize that the greatest conflict that we can have is inside of ourselves in the moment. I'll share with you another story, another reset story. And this happened to me the other day as I'm trying to get my car towed, the damaged car. I'm sitting there and, I've had to, work with my mother on some of this stuff because my resources got drained, over the course of the last 2 years when I got out of my marriage and, downsized my career and, really restarting my life. I don't have a lot of resources, and a lot of you know that. And I'm not ashamed to share that with you because I know I'm not alone. So, I've had to tap into my mother's world every now and then because she does have some more resources than I do. And the cool thing is I've been able to help her out too. I've helped her with transitions. I helped her find her place to live. I helped her find her realtor. I've helped her sell things. So we've had a fairly reciprocal relationship, which I feel good about. But it was a moment of tension on Wednesday, and I could tell she was out of sorts, and I could tell she was feeling put out by me. And so I'm trying to resolve this in myself. I'm trying to have, my own sense of pride and, trying, remind myself that I'm doing what I can to keep my boat afloat and not try to burden other people. I'm having these, little dialogues in my head. And it was really funny. We're waiting for AAA to come. And across from the gas station, the Bridgeway gas station run by Steve on Ashby, just below the Claremont. Great guy, Steve. Great family-owned gas station. Steve is probably 54, 55, maybe 56. His mom and his dad still work at the gas station. Mom does the books. Dad pumps some gas. Dad puts on his gas station uniform every day, just like he has for the last 30 years. Steve's a great guy. And so my car was stranded there, waiting for AAA. Well, across from Steve's is this taqueria. And the taqueria has pretty good Mexican food, okay? And it has an open area, nice little deck. We could sit there at the deck waiting for the AAA driver to show up comfortably. So I get my mother over there. We're sitting down and ask, do you want anything to eat? No, I'm not hungry. Do you want anything to drink? Can I get anything to drink? No, I'm not thirsty. So I go into the taqueria. Now, I have been to the taqueria before, and they actually make really good burritos. I'm not eating meat, so I've shifted to tacos. I can deal with corn, even though it's probably genetically modified corn, whatever. I go in there, and this is a place I would not normally go to, by the way, because I've watched this owner of this place, this Korean woman. I've watched her belittle her workers, who are just these, sweet, wonderful women from Mexico who know how to make Mexican food. I've seen her bully these women, and I will not support a business where owners bully the women. But this day, I needed to. I was hungry. Maybe she's changed. Maybe she wasn't there. Maybe it was somebody else. Hey, even the workers need to eat. I'll throw a little tip money. Hope it gets to them. It offsets the edge of this woman's tyrannical behavior. So I go in and I ask a very simple question about the salsa. I said, does the salsa have tomatoes in it? Because I don't eat tomatoes, really. She said, well, yes. I said, do you have any other salsa? And what I'm really trying to get at is when, this is a complicated negotiation with salsa. There's hot sauce and then there's salsa. And unless you really understand the nomenclature, you can ask for hot sauce, and it could be a hotter version of the salsa, right? And this has happened. Yeah, I'll have the hot sauce. And what you're really getting is more chilies in your salsa fresca. Meanwhile, they've got these little bottles of sauce that don't have any big chunks of tomatoes. Maybe it's tomatillo, maybe it's something else, just plain chilies. That's what I wanted. I felt like the communication with this woman, the owner, was pure torture. Pure torture. But I got the information out of her. And I got the sauce. And I gave the woman behind the cook a tip. So then I go out and I start to talk to my mother. She's just out of sorts, right? Just completely out of sorts. And then I realized, I had this moment. I had my epiphany. And my epiphany was, and I'm not telling you this because I'm looking for your sympathy, okay? I'm just telling you this because it's what we're talking about today, or at least what I'm talking about today. I don't know what you're talking about. It's what I'm talking about. I sat there with my mother, and I said to her, I know that I am not the son that you wanted. I am not the type of son that you could sit back and be proud of in your way. And I said, I'm sorry for that, but it's who I am. And I know that you are, in your own way, ashamed of me. And you know what? She did not refute anything I said. And I got to tell you, it was the most liberating thing I've ever said to my mother. And we all have. Look, I don't care how old you are. I don't care where you are in your path. You are always, always, always at some point along the way dealing with your most primary relationship, which is your parents. You're always dealing with it up to the day they die, and even afterwards. I know people whose parents have died and they're not resolved with stuff. So here I am. I'm having my own come to Jesus with myself, with my mother. And what happened in the next 5 minutes was pretty heated. It was a heated conversation. And it really came down to the fact that she did not know what to tell these people that she would run into in her community. She did not know what to tell them about who I am or what I do. And, she said, oh, well, so-and-so says their son is doing this or their daughter's doing that. She says, I don't know what to tell them about you. So I'll tell you what, you tell them I'm an astrologer, I'm a writer, and I have a radio show. Let's see what they say to that. And I said, you can tell them I'm a dad, and I'm a good dad. If you can't tell them anything, if you can't, at least tell them I'm a good dad. Do you admit that I'm a good dad? She said, oh, yeah. At least tell him that. He's a father, and I'm so proud of the fact that he's a good father. It got heated, right? And I noticed that when my mother gets heated like that, afterwards, she's actually more accessible. I noticed this before. It's like, wow, this is interesting. So I get the sense that my mother's just got this backlog of anger and resentment, and that I'm actually helping her in some ways get through this when we get to these kind of semi-heated places. So anyway, that was my epiphany. And you know what? We're better off for this now. I certainly feel way better. I would rather know and have it on the table that that's how she feels. There's liberation in that. You can free yourself from the shackles of it once you understand that. So this is the season of the reset. Take advantage of it, man. Don't be afraid of it. Okay, so speaking of resets, I was going through my stuff the other day, and I found a bunch of tapes, and I found this one tape that I did back in 1988, and it's with this guy. His name is Christopher. I'm not going to share his last name with you, and I'll give you some background on how I met him and what the significance might be. So it was 1988, and I was working at San Francisco Magazine. I was an editorial assistant. It was like my first quote-unquote real job, right? It was a cool job. I wore a suit every day to work. It was back when people actually wore suits. This was pre.com. If you worked in downtown San Francisco, it didn't matter what you did, you wore a suit. I gladly wore a suit. I loved wearing suits. I had cool suits too. I enjoyed the heck out of it. I enjoyed getting up in the morning, getting a cup of coffee. I lived in the Mission District, getting on BART, riding BART downtown, and then going to work in my suit. And it was great. I had great fun. So at that time, I was also working at a restaurant to help make ends meet because I wasn't making that much money. But I look back on it now. I mean, I was making $1,500 a month as an editorial assistant in 1988. It wasn't bad for that time. And there were so many perks with that job. Anyway, I'm working at this restaurant, and there was a woman there, and her father was ex-military, very, very into UFOs.